Welcome to Shad's Guitar Show. Whether it's the gear or the players who made the gear famous, this podcast is about all things guitar. Well, hello everyone, and welcome into Shad's Guitar Show Season 3. Hard to believe, but this is the third season of the show, and we are just starting. This is the first episode of 2026, and I hope that you had a wonderful holiday season, and I hope that the new year is starting out awesome already, though it's only been a few days, I think, as the release of this podcast is airing. So hasn't been too far into the year yet, but hopefully it's already starting out great for you. I know I'm having a blast just making some lists and things I want to accomplish this year. And I have some big goals, and hopefully you do as well. One of them is to continue the show and to grow the show. So I would love to enlist your help in that. Give me a rating. Follow me on social media, Shad's Guitar Show on Instagram. Subscribe to Shad's Guitar Show on YouTube. And tell your friends about it, because that's how we can grow the community. Hopefully you guys are learning some things, and if nothing else, just being entertained. And I'm certainly learning as I go, and it's entertaining for me to make the show. So hopefully you guys are digging it, and we can have a great 2026. So one of my main goals for 2026 is to continue my jazz guitar education. And I have really immersed myself in it the last month or so. Really studying, really learning, and I'm finding that I'm making progress and really learning a lot in a short amount of time. And I think when you're really excited about something and passionate about it, it makes it that much easier. I've sort of immersed myself in jazz guitar. It's kind of what I've been listening to on the regular. And my favorite all-time guitar player, jazz or otherwise, has been, I think since I started playing, is Kenny Burrell. Now, Kenny Burrell is definitely known mostly as a jazz guitarist, but he added a lot of things into his playing. There's a lot of blues influence in his playing, as well as R&B and soul, and he's just an amazing player, so tasteful. And I've just always been a huge fan ever since I have found out about him many, many years ago. So I wanted to start the year off with an episode on my favorite guitarist, Kenny Burrell. And so without further ado, let's jump into this episode entitled Kenny Burrell, The Sound of Cool, Soul, and Sophistication. Today we're diving into the life, music, and unmistakable tone of one of jazz guitarist's true masters, Kenny Burrell. Burrell's playing is the definition of elegance, blues-soaked, harmonically rich, and always serving the song. He's a guitarist who never plays too much, yet says everything. Kenny was born in Detroit, Michigan in 1931, a city that, at the time, was a powerhouse of jazz, blues, and soul. Detroit wasn't just Motown in waiting. It was also home to a deep jazz lineage. Burrell first picked up the guitar as a teenager, initially influenced by Charlie Christian, like so many other players of the era, whose horn-like phrasing and swing feel laid the groundwork for modern jazz guitar as we know it today. But from early on, Burrell's playing leaned more towards the blues, a trait that would define his sound for decades. While still young, he began studying music formally and eventually attended Wayne State University, where he studied classical guitar and theory. That academic grounding gave him a deep understanding of harmony and arrangement, but his playing never lost its emotional, bluesy core. In the early 1950s, Kenny Burrell's reputation began spreading quickly. His tone, touch, and impeccable taste made him a first-call guitarist almost immediately. By the mid-50s, he was recording and performing with some of the biggest names in jazz, including John Coltrane, Jimmy Smith, Bill Evans, Duke Ellington, and Art Blakey. What set Burrell apart was his adaptability. He could swing hard in a straight-ahead setting, lay back beautifully behind an organ trio, or add subtle color and texture in a big band or studio environment. Kenny first became a recognized band leader by releasing his debut album, Introducing Kenny Burrell, on Blue Note Records in 1956, just months after moving to New York City. Although he'd actually recorded his first sessions for them earlier that year and led local Detroit groups before that. He quickly became prolific, releasing multiple albums as a leader for Blue Note and Prestige in 1956 and 1957. And Kenny's discography is deep, but a few albums that stand out as cornerstones of jazz guitar history would be albums like Midnight Blue from 1963. Often cited as the definitive Kenny Burrell record, Midnight Blue is a masterclass in blues-based jazz. This album showcases Burrell's ability to make every note feel intentional, soulful, and relaxed. The title track alone is required listening for any jazz guitarist. Bluesy Burrell. As the title suggests, the album leans hard into the blues, reinforcing Burrell's deep connection to the genre and his ability to elevate it within a jazz framework. The album Laid Back is a masterclass in understated jazz guitar, cool, blues-inflected, and effortlessly swinging. Recorded at the height of his creative powers, the album blends soulful blues phrasing with refined pop sensibility, wrapped in a warm tone and relaxed tempos. Burrell's touch is conversational and lyrical, letting space and feel do the talking, making Laid Back a timeless listen that lives up to its title, unhurried, tasteful, and deeply musical. And arguably my favorite Kenny Burrell album, KB Blues. And this album captures Kenny at his most relaxed and blues-centered, leaning deeply into the tradition that shaped his voice as a player. The album balances laid-back grooves with sophisticated jazz harmony, showcasing Burrell's warm tone, economical phrasing, and unshakable sense of swing. Rather than flashy technique, KB Blues thrives on feel, each note placed with intention, drawing from electric blues, soul jazz, and classic small group jazz. It's a confident, mature statement that highlights Burrell's lifelong ability to bridge straight-ahead jazz and the blues with effortless authenticity. And it certainly wouldn't be Shad's Guitar Show if we didn't touch a bit on Kenny's gear. Now, like most jazz guitarists of the time, and even jazz guitarists now, there isn't a ton of gear to talk about. These guys typically used the same guitars throughout their whole career and just great Fender tube amps. But let's touch a little bit on the gear that Kenny used and has used for most of his career. So he's most famously associated with Gibson archtop style guitars, mainly the Gibson ES-175 in the early days of his career, and then later the Gibson Super 400. These guitars contributed to his thick mid-range and smooth high-end, perfect for single-note lines and chord melody work. Now for amplifiers, Burrell has always favored clean, tube-driven amps with plenty of headroom. Fender amps were common, and in the early days, he would use most often a Tweed Deluxe, which provided a clear, uncolored platform that let the guitar and the hands do the talking. Beyond performing, Kenny Burrell has had a massive impact as an educator. He founded and directed the Jazz Studies program at UCLA, helping shape future generations of jazz musicians and guitarists. His influence can be heard in players across genres, from straight-ahead jazz to blues, soul, and even modern neo-jazz artists. Anyone chasing a warm tone, melodic restraint, and deep blues feel owes something to Kenny Burrell. Kenny Burrell represents a rare balance in music, intellect and emotion, tradition and individuality. He never chased trends. He refined a voice so personal that it became timeless. If you want to understand how jazz guitar can whisper instead of shout, how blues and sophistication can coexist, and how less can truly be more, start with Kenny Burrell. If you've enjoyed this short dive into the life of my favorite guitarist, Kenny Burrell, please make sure to share it with your friends. And until next time, never forget, the best guitarist is the one who's having the most fun.